Hey guys, this is my HPI Nitro Rush. I've converted it to an electronic system. I've seen a few YouTube videos online of people saying that they converted theirs to electric, but then they really don't show you what they did. They just show you the car driving around. So I thought I'd show you what I did, the things that had to be done. So I used a fuse 120 amp ESC. I used a Traxxas receiver and radio system. I have the fuse 3000 kV motor, and you can use whatever servo you want. That doesn't really matter. What I had to do here is I bent the sides down. Just be real careful. Hopefully you don't break them at the seams if you start bending it back and forth. But if you just go really slow and bend these flats down, that gives you more space. On this side, this is where I hold my battery. Okay, and so this actually is off a Team Losi SCTE 2.0. That would be the battery brackets that hold it. So I was able to fit them here. What I used is, if you look here in the front, I had a carbon fiber top deck, and I was able to cut it and just use the front part of it. So if you look really close here, see if I can get a close up. We'll move the wires out of the way. You can see that the front carbon fiber piece is still there, and all I did was cut it right there where the purple braces are attached right there in the front. So it's about half distance to the servo. And then in the back of the servo, we have those purple spacers spacing it up. So you can see on both sides where I've cut the bracket. In the back here, I originally had the original aluminum brace back here, and I cut it and shortened it and attached it here for additional support. This piece of aluminum is just a bent piece of aluminum that I actually cut, and I made a area where the motor could be adjusted up or down, so we could tighten and loosen the spur gear adjustment. So if you look in there, I have my mounting holes for my screws, and they're slightly ovaled in the position they need to be. I think I made one hole perfectly to align it, and then the other one I made a slightly oval so I could move it up or down or side to side. So this little groove here I had to make for the battery to actually fit there. It was a little tight. There are 3 bolts, it looks like here, one there, one here, and one on the other side, supporting the metal piece that I used, or actually it's aluminum, to support the motor. Over here on this side, there used to be the brake inside of here, and the brake's been removed because you don't need it for electronics. The little part that would typically sit here for the switch was removed, and of course I don't need the battery tray, so that was removed. So anyway, I think with the battery tray, if you look here really closely, I took one of my battery trays because it does support the back area where it mounts here, and I cut it and just left just a portion of it there. So this is what I did to do that. Let's see, you can see I had to drill some extra bolts here, holes here and there for the chassis in order to mount things. Here I had to make 2 new holes for the battery tray, and here that was to hold the battery tray, and then I believe these holes are new holes to hold the plate. So that was basically what was involved to do this. I didn't have to change anything in the front. This is still all bolted. Like I said, all I had to do is that carbon fiber piece and then use 2 spacers up there. So I made this little deal here. It's actually part of the battery deal. If you look at it, it's actually the same piece. So it's an end piece that I actually drilled a hole in, and then I actually countersunk a little fitting in there to lock the straw in place, and that's where my my receiver wire actually would go underneath. So that was all modified something that I made. You can see there's a spot there for the wire to slide underneath and then up the tube, and so I made that. Let's see what else. Anyway, so that's what I did to convert it. This thing gets up and moves pretty good. It was fun to do. I did it last summer. It was just a fun project. But I have, and the reason why I'm showing you this, I have my SCT 2.0, and that thing's badass, and it's electric. And I go to the track with some of my friends, and now I don't have a nitro track anymore when I'm there. And I could buy another one. I mean, this is an HPI Rush, which wasn't very well known for racing, but it has a lot of sentimental value to me, so I am going to be converting it back to nitro. I did have to buy a new chassis for it, a new upper deck, and a new rear brace. I decided instead of using the purple chassis to use the new Evo chassis, which is the newest one out. It's all black instead of purple. And then the updated brace that'll go here. So, but anyway, I hope this helped you guys out. If you're thinking about converting your HPI Rush to electric, it's not too difficult to do. That gear there that I used, this was a big shaft. It's the Fuse 3000 kV. It's the same motor that comes on the SCT 2.0 stock. And so actually the gear on it is, I believe, the same size gear you would get on an SCTE. You just have to pick how many teeth you want. So here I'll kind of give you a close-up. I haven't counted. You might want to stop your video and you can count those teeth and figure out how many teeth I have on this if you decide to use the same amount of teeth that I use. So there you go. So anyway, thanks for watching. Alright, I wanted to finish up with the finished HPI Nitro Rush. In the earlier part of this video, I showed you that I had converted it to electric. And I wanted to show you, now that everything's torn apart, what I did here. So here's where the ESC was located. It was double-sided taped and it was down. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. The on-off switch, just Velcroed strap right here in the corner. Then you could take a receiver and you could just Velcro it down here. So that's how that went. Then you have your bracket with your motor. And as you can see what I did with the back area here. Now this here is part of the battery box. I just cut it off and this is what was left just to fill that area. And then in the front here, it's just taped to it right now, but that would be the motor mount, original part of the motor mount. That's the rear part. Now that's the cast iron or the cast aluminum one. You could have used just the regular aluminum style one too and just cut the back area off. Here you have the battery holder, and then you have the carbon fiber deck, and that's what I did to cut it out. So basically right now all you have to do is put the front section back on, put the servo back in, you can see what I did for the servo, and then put the rear section back in and you'd be all set and ready to go again. And anyway, we'll get to my Rush now. So I just discovered, you know, the Rush, they don't even make it anymore. Parts are starting to get more and more scarce. I had to replace the deck. I've always wanted to go with the black chassis instead of the purple. Now I'm kind of second guessing it, whether I like it or not, but hey, cool, whatever, it's different than last time. I still have all the purple, you know, I stayed with everything that's from my original Rush. So I have the aluminum shocks on this. Those are HPI upgraded aluminum shocks, the soft yellow racing springs, all purple titanium turnbuckles. Those are all HPI. Got the carbon fiber deck, the upgraded fuel tank. It does not have a primer on it. It was not removed. That's how it comes. I think it's a 75cc larger fuel tank with this zip tie to lift it up and down. I upgraded my radio system. The old receiver was the 6518 TQI, and that one you could speak to it with the Bluetooth, but I added the 6533, which has TCM, so that's an upgrade. I upgraded my servo, steering servo, with a Savix 1258, which is all digital titanium gears, I think is what they are. The motor is the same motor that I had before, but it's a OS 18. It's a CVR, so that's the OS engine. HPI tuned pipe, and this was the one that wasn't painted. I don't believe that I stripped the paint on this. That's how it came originally. Like I said, this is one of the originals. I think some of the newer ones were painted all black. So anyway, let's see what else. When I started going through my box of stuff, you know, when I converted this to electric, I just took any of the extra pieces I had and stuck them in a box. When I started going through the box, I discovered that I had lost this linkage, the metal linkage for the brake. So I had to order a new linkage, and it doesn't come with this back section or the spring. You actually have to order that separately. Well, thankfully, I was looking through my toolbox, and I had ordered an extra linkage kit that came with that spring that was still sitting in my toolbox from years ago. So I already had the spring, and I was looking through all my little boxes of plastics and stuff, and I found the little knob. But I never did find the damn linkage or the old spring. So I got a new knob and a new linkage and a new spring, thankfully. Let's see what else. At one point I had upgraded the diff on this to the all ball bearing locking diff, but these deals wore out, and I ended up having to put the stock rear end back in it. I had, when I built the new upgraded ball diff rear end, I just ordered a new gear and everything so I could just have a spare, and so I still have the old spare, so I had to put it back in the rear end. So this is pretty much all stock. I didn't upgrade my steering or my throttle servo at this point. I just happened to have another throttle servo laying around in my toolbox. This one's a what is that, an OFNA SX01, I think that says. It's just an inexpensive servo that I'm using for now. I spaced it up a little bit because the servo was actually bottoming out on the chassis, so I spaced it up a little bit. You got the OS air filter system. Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, I upgraded. I had to buy a new brace. Now some of these parts got really difficult to find. Spent a little money putting this damn thing back together, but as you can see, it's ready to rock and roll. So anyway, the wheels and tires I already had. I have a bunch of wheels and tires. Like I said, I've had this thing for years. So if anything, this ring's ready to rock and roll. Oh, I did want to mention, with this OS 18, this is a slide carburetor. So if you look at the way the linkages are set up, for those of you guys that ever might want to do it, the carburetor goes on that side over there, the linkage is hooked up to it, and the brake is still hooked up, and it just that is throttle and that is brake. As you can see, I still have the original stock spur gear on here, and there's no issues with it, but it is the only one I have, so I'm going to go online and see if I can try to find another one. That's it. That's my radio system. Alright, well, anyway, that's how I did the conversion to electronic, and that's how I converted it back. Alright.